Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to go over Python programming, and we're going to talk about conditional execution. And we're going to try a couple different structures in Python. And we're going to start with the template that we're going to use that should be in student folders. And I'm just going to go ahead and open it. I'm going to edit with idle. And the first thing I want to do is save it, give it a new title. So I'm going to choose Save As. And I want to make sure I save this as conditional execution. Okay, one of the things is in my template, I had a couple things here that I don't need anymore, like getting user info. I don't really need that. But we'll just do, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Couple things is make sure you use your proper import statements. Okay, so I cleaned this up a little bit. I added a comment header. Once I create my new file from a template, I want to make sure I label it and I put kind of the purpose of the program here. So I'm putting on here, it's a demonstration of various conditional execution structures. It's sort of an overview. You can save my changes. On import statements, you need to have these T-Kinter ones. We're going to use simple dialog. Actually, you need to add another import statement. We're going to use random for this one because we're going to simulate the rolling of a dice and the flipping of a coin and some other things like that. So we're going to use random for that. We're going to import random. Next thing, we get our GUIs set up, we create the root, we use the pack method, then we withdraw it so that little window goes away. And on welcome the user, what we're going to do is put a little description in here for the user. I'm going to fill out my message here. I'll pause it while I do that. Okay, so I filled out this content here a little bit. So we have a welcome here. We're going to demonstrate random chance simulations to demonstrate, well, to show you, to practice, there we go, conditional execution, which is also known as branching structures. And that's because the program can branch off in one of several different possible outcomes. So we're going to simulate the rolling of a dice, of 2 dice. So we're going to put die 1, singular for 1. And we're going to use random. Now, we have a couple options here. I'm going to show you the 2 different options for random. Very common one that people use is rand range. Okay, let me just demonstrate the range function. If I give a range function and I put 6, notice it gives me 6 digits, but it starts at 0 and it goes up to 6, but not including. Okay, so if we import random, and we do random.randrange 6, it's going to pick one of those digits there. Okay? So that's kind of basically how random.randrange works. And every time you run it, it gives you a different number. So the problem with that is that if we want to do 6, we don't have a 0 on our dice. We start at 1, we end at 6. So what we could do is we could put random.randrange plus 1. Now watch what happens here. We take whatever these numbers are and we add 1 to it. So 0 becomes 1, 1 becomes 2, and so on until we get to 5, which becomes 6. So it's very common for people to do something along the lines of random.randrange 6, and then you put a plus 1, and you're guaranteed to have a number between 1 and 6. However, there's always another way to do something, and turns out randint might be your new hero. Because in randint, it's a random integer. You pick the start. Here, let me just show you. It says returns a random number in the range, including both endpoints. So we can put a 1, 6. So it'll only be between 1 and 6. And we don't have to worry about adding the extra 1. So we'll put on here a little comment. There we have it. So we got the 2 dice, 2 different ways of doing it. You choose which one you prefer. I think I know what I would do if I were you. It would probably be randint. But I want you to be aware there's more ways to do it. So we'll put die 1 plus die 2. Okay, so now the big question is, we need to do a little, we're going to process our information, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this comment and this output here. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write a variable for my output. Okay, And so what we can do is with our variable, we're going to start basically with the following. You rolled a, and we're going to put percentage %s, because what we're going to do is we're going to take die 1 and we're going to treat it as a string because it'll just give it the exact number. We could have put percentage %d as well, but I'm just going to do is percentage %s because I learned that it works with integers as well. So a percentage %s and a percentage %s for a total of percentage %s. So what that does is it gives us 3 different variables, placeholders for those variables, and then we put die 1, die 2, and total. Okay? So that's our output. And then when it says produce output, notice we have results. Hold on. I'm going to have to adjust this window here. Sorry about that. And notice it says results, output. Let's just go ahead and test this out where it is. I'm going to type F5, click OK. I'm going to move this window out of the way. Here's our welcome screen right there. Click OK. You rolled a 3 and a 2 for a total of 5. All right. Straightforward. Total is equal to 5 this time around, but if we run it again, we'll get a different outcome. So we're just going to go ahead and run it again. F5. Click OK. Rolled a 1 and a 1 for a total of 2. Okay, you see how that works? Now we're going to do our conditional execution. Is total equal to 7? Okay. If you've ever played a game of chance with 2 dice, you will know that 7 is the most commonly rolled number. I don't remember exactly the percentage, but you could Google that and find out. But what we're going to do here is we're just going to find out, is total equal to 7? If it is, we're going to say they won. So let's say they're rolling to see if they can get a 7. Kind of like a game I've heard of before and seen in the movies. Usually those old movies, you know, like, yeah, back in the streets, you know, they play craps or whatever in the back alley or whatever. So we're just going to do a little check here. If total, now we put the double equal sign. Is it equal to 7? Okay, so now look what we do here. Okay, we're comparing to see if total is equal to 7. In Python, you put the if keyword, you put what's called a Boolean comparison. So typically we're comparing a variable and a number. And then what we do is we put a colon in Python, and when we hit enter, notice it's tabbed over. So unlike a lot of other programming languages, in Python, a tab is special. Okay? So we're saying anything that's tabbed underneath that line that checks for total, anything that's tabbed over is what's called the block of code that we run if the condition is met. So if this condition, total happens to be 7, what we're going to do is we're going to add to the output. So we're going to put an output plus equals, we're going to put you win. Okay? So we're only going to add it if total happens to be 7. So we're going to have to run this a few times before we can find out if it works or not. But let's check it. So now one of the things you do in programming when you run a program is you're looking for what's called code coverage. Okay? We're trying to cover every possible outcome in our program to see if it works. So we're going to run it. And notice this time we get a total of 6. So we have not covered the block of code under that if total is equal to 7. We haven't covered it yet. But we do know that if it doesn't equal 7, the program doesn't like choke on itself. And it still runs normally. But we're going to have to run this until we get the output we're looking for. Okay, so I got to run this until I get a number 7. Oh, Python shell is already executing. Okay. Total of 4, nothing. Total of 10, nothing. Okay, there we go. I finally got it to work. You rolled a 3 and a 4 for a total of 7, you win. 7, you win. You got to say it all together because I forgot to put a space in there. Now, don't you think it... Now, by the way, you didn't... Those of you watching the video, you didn't realize this took me like 2 minutes before it finally actually got a 7. Okay, so at this point, I've covered code coverage. Now, if I hadn't run it until I got a 7, I wouldn't have realized I need a space there. So it wasn't that good that I ran it and tested it that way. So now I'm going to put one more space, or actually better yet, I'll put a \n for a new line. And then if you want to test that, continue to run it as many times as it takes.